Hello again, everyone. Welcome to Washington Gun Law TV. I'm Washington Gun Law President William Kirk. Thanks for joining us. Hey, we're going to talk about some election news, campaign news here in the state of Washington. So this is a video for the hometown crowd. Now, as you know, we're a little critical of our current Attorney General here, and we make no bones about it. We are critical of a lot of his decisions. In fact, we're critical of just about every single decision he makes. And as we also know, our Attorney General believes that he should be our next governor. Well, lo and behold, it appears that a couple of other individuals also believe they ought to be governor as well, but it comes with a very weird twist. And that very weird twist is apparently they all share the same name. I know it's a bit of a political stunt here. We're going to talk about all of that. So today, let's spend a few minutes and let's talk about what about Bob and what just happened with the Washington governor's race. Okay, Dateline, Friday of last week, as you know, filing deadline for anybody who wants to run for a statewide office. On the Democratic gubernatorial race right now, there are two main candidates getting most of the attention. Of course, your Attorney General, Mr. Bob Ferguson, and then, of course, State Senator Mark Mullet out of Issaquah. Apparently, two more names jumped in at the last minute, both as Democrats. That is Bob Ferguson, a retired state employee from Yakima, and Bob Ferguson, a military veteran in Graham. What are the chances right now? I know a lot of people are doing this tongue-in-cheek, and I'm doing this a little bit tongue-in-cheek too. First of all, I know that some people reached out to me right after this happened and wanted to know if we knew about this or had anything to do with it. The answer to both those questions is no, absolutely no. I had nothing to do with it. Now, we do know that political activist Glenn Morgan, who I am a huge fan of, and if you are not a fan of Glenn Morgan and you're not watching We the Governed, his channel, I'm going to link it up down below, Washington in particular, but everyone, you guys need to be watching what Glenn's doing here because he is going to open your eyes to a lot of things. Glenn is behind, and he's been very braggadocious about this, that he is in fact behind this. Now, I know that this is perhaps a political stunt. Maybe these two individuals are going to come out of the woodwork and actually run a true gubernatorial campaign. One should hope so. But if this is just a political stunt to confuse voters, then I'm a little concerned that this is actually going to backfire. And I'm a little concerned it's going to backfire in two ways. Number one, it's going to help the Bob Ferguson that nobody wants to help more than anyone intends for it to help. And number two, I worry that it could get Mr. Morgan or some other people involved with it potentially in trouble with the law. And I'm going to explain both. All right. The first one, that it's going to help the Bob Ferguson that you don't want to help more than you wanted to help him. Okay. And here's what I'm talking about. That campaign, it's kind of floundering. I know that he's raising a lot of money. But what do you expect when you're the front runner with a D next to your name in the state of Washington? But he hasn't energized anybody or any group into this campaign. There's no energy from low energy Bob, okay? And so the campaign is frankly struggling. And that's why you see right now a particular Republican candidate, who I'm not going to get involved in that you-know-what storm, but actually polling ahead of Attorney General Ferguson in some polls, okay? So that's the thing, is maybe the best thing to do is just let the campaign continue to do what it's going to do, which is nothing much. And could it just sputter out on its own? So now, suddenly this becomes, left-wing media gets a hold of this. Look what these right-wing nut jobs are trying to do in Washington. Obviously, that's not the truth, but when does the media ever let the truth get in the way of the story they want to tell? And now you got outside state money flowing in on the real Bob Ferguson to help, okay? So could this actually energize a campaign that didn't have a lot of energy? It could. Could this actually bring in a bunch more money that otherwise might not have come in? Because, it might be, if you're a big donor, but you're out in Massachusetts, Bob Ferguson might not be the kind of candidate that you get really excited about. But now, this stunt might be something that motivates him, okay? And again, I'm not being critical of anyone, okay? I'm certainly not going to be critical of Glenn Morgan. Glenn Morgan is, like I said, he's very active. I love what he does. I'm just playing armchair quarterback here, okay? Now, the second thing is this, is that if you're going to go out and you're going to recruit individuals to run against the Bob Ferguson, and their names just so happen to be Bob Ferguson, well, then that is an amazing coincidence. Still mathematically possible, but an amazing coincidence. If, however, the sole purpose is to get these people's names on the ballot, just so the names are there, and then there is confusion, number one, that could potentially be a crime. I'll outline the statute in just a moment. Number two, there's a Washington administrative code that would instruct the Secretary of State to make sure that the confusion would be cleared up through the ballot itself. Okay, now hear me out. When it comes to Washington election law, there's a statute, 29A.84.320, but you guys all knew that already, which states the following. A person is guilty of a Class B felony, punishable according to Chapter 9A.20 of the RCW, who files a declaration of candidacy for any public office of, okay, so if you file a declaration for candidacy of any of the following, this could subject you to a Class B felony, which, by the way, is not child's play. 1, a non-existent or fictitious person. Or 2, the name of any person, not his or her true name. And I don't believe for 1 second that either of these individuals have fabricated a fake name. So far, the statute seems pretty good. But there's more. 3, a name similar to that of an incumbent seeking re-election to the same office with intent to confuse and mislead the electors by taking advantage of the public reputation of the incumbent. And if Attorney General Ferguson was running again for Attorney General, that section would apply, but you have to be running for re-election to that office. Is that the end of it? Unfortunately, there's not. There's a fourth way. 4, a surname similar to one who has already filed for the same office and whose political reputation is widely known, with intent to confuse and mislead the electors by capitalizing on the public reputation of the candidate who had previously filed. And that means that in this case, the Attorney General, who was clearly the first one to have filed, would be in that position. And candidly, he's the only one that would have any kind of a political reputation, good, bad, or indifferent. He is well known in this state. So under RCW 29A.84.320 sub 4, there is a plausible, I didn't say there is probable cause, but there is a plausible argument that can be made that this is done for nefarious reasons, contrary to Washington state law. Even if you don't believe any of that. And again, am I accusing Mr. Morgan of that? Absolutely not. But I don't know who he talked to before they kind of advanced this playbook here. All right. Here's the other thing you need to be aware of, is even if both names remain on the ballot, then there are Washington administrative codes that dictate what the Secretary of State has to do. And one of the things that the Secretary of State has to do, who's in charge of all of our ballots, is make sure you clear up the confusion. WAC 434-215-060, of course you guys knew that one already, specifically states, whenever in the judgment of the filing officer, 2 or more candidates have filed for the same office, whose names are so similar as to be confusing to voters, he or she shall differentiate between the candidates by the inclusion of additional information in connection with the name as it appears on the ballot. Such differentiation may be made by the inclusion of the candidate's occupation, status as incumbent or challenger, or by any other means which, in the judgment of the filing officer, fairly and impartially distinguishes the candidates. The filing officer may solicit suggestions and input from the candidates involved in order to resolve the situation. So, even if there is no illegality, which there very well may not be, the Secretary of State is clearly dictated by the administrative code to clear any would-be confusion up. And so for that reason, the likelihood that this is going to make a significant difference in the direction that Mr. Morgan and I want the election to go, because let's not kid ourselves. We are both desiring the same thing here, okay? But the likelihood of this increasing our chances, in my opinion, is not that great. And in fact, we risk actually energizing a rather low energy campaign. Listen, we're going to go ahead and link up the statutes down below so that you guys can geek out on it for yourself. You can see what I'm talking about. If you got any video ideas, hey, check out that link right there. Some of the best videos we've done weren't really our ideas to begin with. If you need to get a hold of Washington gun law about this or anything else, you should know how to get a hold of us. But if you don't, that information is down there in the description box. And then finally, let's everyone remember that part of being the lawful and responsible gun owner, like we talk about all the time here, is to know what the law is in every situation, how it applies to you in any instance that you may find yourself. Until next time, thanks for watching. Stay safe.